I absolutely love it when we can take golf and connect it to our veterans. And the conversation you're about to hear does just that as we take a dive into the PGA Hope program and introduce you to a man from the middle of Michigan who has more commendations for his service to our nation than I have time to share with you here. Straight ahead, you'll meet Mark Hitchcock and hear the story of PGA Hope. If you have listened to our program over the years, you know how excited I get whenever we get to tie the world of golf into the world of patriotism and honoring our veterans. And we've got such a cool story to share with you today. Ideally, we would have done this back at Veterans Day, but we're a few days beyond that. The good news is the event we will be describing runs through the end of November. So some of you are listening to this, maybe even during Thanksgiving week, and just know that you still have time to be part of it. What is it? We'll get there in a moment. Let me first welcome in from Bay City, Michigan, which is pretty darn close to our headquarters. And yet here we are connecting on Zoom with Mark Hitchcock. Served honorably in the U.S. Army Reserve for 10 years with the 980th Quartermaster Company. And now if I start to read through the list of commendations that Mark has earned over the years, we would burn about 30 minutes of our time up together. So let me just officially welcome you in and say thank you for your service. How are you?
Outstanding, and thank you, Bill, for having us.
Let me hit a couple of the highlights just to give everybody a feel for your level of dedication to serving our nation. And yes, I have these written down in front of me. During your service, Sergeant Hitchcock earned the Army Commendation Medal, 3 Army Achievement Medals, 3 Army Reserve Components Achievement Medals, National Defense Service Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, 2 Armed Forces Reserve Medals, Driver Mechanic Certificates of Achievement, and for your service in Iraq, your unit was awarded the Meritorious Unit Commendation for Exceptional Service. Other than that, what have you been up to?
Well, that's many, many years ago. But the great thing about being able to serve is being able to continue service after leaving the armed services. And that's something I've done in my professional life, and being able to tie in one of my favorite activities, the game of golf, and serve my fellow brothers and sisters who served in the past. It's a perfect dovetail, and bringing it all together with the PGA Hope program and all that it has to offer. It's almost like many, many opportunities have come together at once. And I just feel honored to be able to give back a little bit while I still can.
So I have a couple of questions related to the origin story of Mark Hitchcock. First of all, when did golf first become a part of your life?
Well, I started as a kid going out riding on the cart with my grandparents up in Houghton Lake, where they were a member of a course up there. Unfortunately, I was a little bit rambunctious. I liked a lot of contact sports. I played hockey growing up, so I didn't necessarily have the temperament for the game of golf. So that was my exposure to the game. I really started playing it as something to network and playing leagues when later in my life, probably in my mid-30s. So not really all that long ago. And I've really started to get a lot more serious about it, I'd say, in the last 4 or 5 years, as I've gotten involved in the programs, much like PGA Hope, and really been able to reconnect with fellow veterans around the game of golf. It was almost like that was the linchpin that brought it all together for me. So it's been a long journey, but it's a journey I know I can continue on. Hockey, I think those days are over. My body doesn't want to let me do it. Golf is a little bit nicer on the body. So yeah, it's outstanding to be able to get out on the course every day we can. Unfortunately, those days have come to an end for the season.
Yeah, we hear so often about the therapeutic role that the game plays for our returning veterans. For those who are wondering how to put some of the pieces back together again when they're dealing with PTSD and some of the stress and anxiety of re-entry into civilian life, how did golf help you with all of that?
Well, ironically, every veteran's journey is a little bit different. And my story, I'd like to say I'm blessed because my story wasn't nearly as traumatic as many of my close friends. And being able to be around them and hear about how golf has impacted them, I think would better tell this story. But for me, it's allowed me to forget about life for a few moments in time. And I think that dovetails well with those that have deal with journeys a little bit more difficult than mine as they've re-entered the civilian side and they're continuing to deal with issues of PDS and other anxieties. If they shoot 100 or if they shoot 80, it's 100 or 80 moments in time that they're not focused on that other thing. You put that together over the course of many rounds, that turns into many minutes, many hours, many days, many weeks, many months. What they've done through that inadvertently has had a little bit of therapy to be able to focus on something completely different. And we know this great game of golf can be frustrating at times. So when you hear therapy in golf, oftentimes we get a head turn, but it's extremely therapeutic because it's peaceful. You're out in the environment. You're out in the woods, you're out with friends, you're having a good time, you're out in nature without having to worry about anything outside coming in, which is a stressor that many veterans have had to deal with, both deployed and stateside. So being able to get away from that, golf has been a perfect therapy in many ways.
You know, there are some programs that have sprung up over the course of the past few years that have been so well done. You know, I think of Drive, Chip, and Putt, PGA, of course, leading that effort. And I think about PGA Hope. And, you know, this didn't exist, I don't think, 20 years ago. It's a recent development. It's a recent idea, and it's a program that's making such a big difference. What does it mean mostly to you to see some of your colleagues, some of your fellow veterans, like you said, just kind of losing themselves in the game for a day or for a half a day, or maybe it's for a week-long event, whatever it happens to be, through this PGA Hope program? What's it like to see them just enjoy life again?
It's something that I know for myself, I bottled up and didn't realize that maybe I had put some things away. To see others a little further in dealing with that challenge. We had one of our participants who actually, it took him a couple of sessions to open up. He says, other than going to the store or to the doctor, he didn't leave his house. This gave him a purpose to get out of the house. Let's think about that for a minute. It's not just about, can we get to the course and hit some balls? This is seriously an opportunity for some veterans to truly get their life back, do the basic things of getting out and socializing again in a safe environment, getting out and doing an activity again that they may have never even thought about would be so reinvigorating. For some folks, it's as simple as it's getting them back out of the house. And that gave me a moment's pause when that veteran finally opened up to that. And as it went on, he just became more and more himself. You could see he was more open. He was more, and it's not about talking about the stories. It's really about getting to know who the individual is, because veterans are individuals too. You know, we are just normal people that just had different experiences. That's it. And to be able to have veterans who have had similar experiences together, it gives a level of trust without having to get to know that person first. And golf is a really easy way to get to know who somebody is, good or bad, in that short period of time that you're golfing with them. So it really shows the true character and a lot of the things that golf brings out: integrity, character, honesty, just in the inherent nature of the game. Those are some of the core values of every branch of the service.
Just in your introduction, when I was reading through some of the accomplishments and the commendations that you've received, you know, I said the word Iraq a number of times in there. And I really think, Mark, that one of the most powerful ways for us to help put context to the impact of PGA Hope is to also go back and sort of paint the before picture of how different a world it was where you were and where your fellow colleagues were. You know, we sing the goofy, annoying song, "It's a Small World After All." It is a small world, but it's an entirely different world over there.
Yes.
Can you kind of take us back to some of your early memories and impressions of being in country, in the sandbox, and realizing, man, this is not Bay City anymore?
Yes. I would say simplistically, it gave me a lot of guilt when I came back, because some of the things that we deal with on the civilian side, right here in the country, and that's why many of us serve, is so that others don't have to experience some of these experiences. The simple ways of life, the simple environment, the things we take for granted. When our cable goes out, when the power goes out for a short period of time, we don't have to worry about whether or not the water source is polluted or not. The things that we take for granted over there were absolute necessities and ways of life that weren't quite there where we were in our early days. It gave me a early opportunity to realize that we had it pretty darn good back here in mid-Michigan, and to never take that for granted going forward. And like I say, when I came home, I carried some guilt about that. But over time, I let that wane and realized, how can I raise that awareness? How can I give back? And this is just one of those ways. So really, from the in-country to back home, yeah, it's the little things. It's the little things that we take for granted that bother us, really aren't that big a deal in comparison to what others in other countries have to deal with just to survive.
For some, I think those moments of lasting trauma and difficulty come from live fire moments where bodies are mangled, where there's war taking place, where you're kicking down doors and you never know what's on the other side of it. And then for others, it's that, like you mentioned, the guilt of coming back. It's the overall experience. In your case, is there a particular, I don't know, memory or image that you struggle with, or is it just the experience overall?
I think it's the experience overall, because one thing that the military does just inherently is you build bonds. I think the closest representation I could make on the civilian side would be a higher level team sports activity, where you're playing a whole season and you're getting tight with these individuals, and you're essentially going to battle on any given evening. And you're doing things on the ice, off the ice, whether it's hockey, baseball, whatever it might be, but you're building those bonds. At the military, it's a step further, because the worst case scenario in a team sport is you'll lose. The other side, you could lose your life. So I think that's where the connection really aligns. But for me, it was really more a holistic experience, because I had my brothers and sisters to lean on while I was there. And our main focus was primarily mission first, and to make sure everybody got home to their families. As far as all the other stuff, we just overcame and adapt and just dealt with what we had to deal with, and didn't really let it sink in at the moment. But I know I've got plenty of friends who have had many, many other experiences than that. But I really have compartmentalized it as a holistic experience and used that to motivate me when I've come home.
Let me just ask you a really lame civilian question. Well, okay, because I wasn't there, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for those of you who were brave enough to go and serve and defend and do those things, because for those of us who were not there, we're the beneficiaries of that labor and of that bravery, but we weren't there. And I'm just curious, was there ever a time when you were engaged in whatever, you're driving down the city street, you're working on machinery, whatever, where you looked around and thought, how on earth did I end up in Iraq? I'm a mid-Michigan kid. I'm from the Great Lakes Bay region. I should be out on a boat right now. I should be fishing. I should, whatever. Did you ever have one of those moments while you're actually in the midst of it all?
Honestly, towards the end of my deployment, once we were wrapping up and we were handing over to the unit replacing us, that's when I started to take a moment to really soak it in and realize, what am I doing here? And it wasn't a matter of a question of the mission at hand. It was really I just essentially went to college, and this would be what many would say was, this is my opportunity to study abroad. Not really how I wrote it up back in third grade. However, that's when I kind of took it in and went, wow. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's part of the reason where I took the holistic experience and said, what am I going to do with this? Am I just going to put it away and forget about it forever? That's not going to happen. It was, how can I use this as a motivator when I get back home? And that's why in the private sector, I've decided to serve and work for various nonprofits and really be able to give back for a mission oriented, really tap into that sense of service that I have. So I've used it realistically as a motivator. But yeah, towards the end, I took a moment and just kind of looked around and realized, wow, I know what I don't want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, let's talk golf a little bit. This PGA Hope program, really, really powerful. As you come back to be a part of it, do you come back as a golf nut? Are you fully immersed in this game? Are you good at the game, or is it not about that part of it?
I would say it is an addiction. It's a lot more socially acceptable to say that, but no, as my time has wound down, not being able to play hockey quite at the level I could, I had to find another avenue, and golf has filled that gap. And yeah, I would say golf nut would be an easy way to put it. I've really entrenched myself in learning about the equipment or understanding the swing, trying to understand some game management skills, and just really trying to get to know others and learn from them. I'd like to say that I can hold my own, but I still got a long ways to go on my golf journey to reach some of my personal goals from a handicap standpoint of playability. So I wouldn't say I'm good, but I would say I can hold my own, and I just love the experience and the opportunity, which has really come out of this that I never experienced or expected, was to be able to experience some of the great courses in Michigan. As you know, we are blessed in this state. We got a short season, but we have some of the best golf courses in the country. And to be able to have the opportunity to go out and get a little bit better at the game, or maybe a little bit worse on a given day, it's really about the experience. It's about spending time with fellow veterans and fellow friends, and just trying to take in a little bit of life for a little while, and realize that this journey is not over. That was a part of the journey, was my past. There's a whole big front windshield that I'm looking out right now, and golf is a big part of that.
Okay, so what are the goals? What are you aiming for? We've got a lot of PGA professionals who listen to the podcast. You never know, somebody might reach out and say, "Hey, I'm near you in Michigan. Come on in. Let's get this goal process, this train on the track." So what are you dreaming of in this game?
Well, every year I reset, and I have three goals that I set for myself each year. I'm still driving towards my big, hairy, audacious goal of becoming a single-digit handicap, and I'm close.
Nice.
I slipped in. I just about got there at the beginning of last year, and then had a few little issues throughout the year, like we all do. So that's definitely a goal that I would like to achieve by the end of next year,
I
because it was
like the way
supposed to
you
be by
put
the
that.
end of this year.
I like the way you put that. Issues. I have issues, and yeah, you're not alone in that. Believe me, we all do.
The game of golf can be both elating and humbling at the same time, and I think that's what I love about it. The pursuit of perfect is impossible, so it's about progress and that journey, and that's what I love about this game. A little bit more club head speed, and trying to make sure that my swing is a little bit more technically sound is definitely a goal that I've worked with a few different professionals on. But ultimately, really, my game management is an area where I struggle. I could be putting up a pretty good score and get down the last few holes and let it slip. But I would say the most tangible one would be to really tie everything together, and get into start out with the high single digits, and eventually get down to a point where I may feel confident enough. I would like someday to potentially take the PAT and look at a next career in maybe through the associate program, and potentially become a PGA professional. I have a long ways to go, so I'm not quite there yet, but there's somebody out there, and that could help me get there quicker. I would definitely be open to that.
You must be filled with patience if you're coming out of the service that you gave all those years, and you're coming into the world of golf, which requires patience, and then you're thinking about teaching the game. You must be a very patient man.
Ironically, I'm not. Um,
And
but
you might
as
want to
time has
rethink.
gone on, I have become more focused on, like I say, the journey. Understanding the why to everything is kind of become the puzzle I try to solve on a regular basis. And as long as there's continuously questions to ask and answers to be found, that for me is intriguing.
Mhm.
So earlier in my life, I played a lot of hockey, and I also coached a lot of hockey, and I really found a lot of unexpected reward from that, being able to help kids get a little bit better at the game, and give up my skills. I was not a high level hockey player, but I knew enough about the game, and I could help these kids get going. And I found a connection, and something I really enjoyed about when you can help somebody solve a problem they're trying to solve, and help them do it. It'll be more sustainable, and you can see the empowerment it gives to that individual. And so I would say from that aspect, that's the part about it that's intriguing to me, is being able to help others in their journey and help them turn a massive slice into a potential straight ball, or maybe a baby draw, maybe being able to make contact and get the ball off the ground. Some of the real easy things that we take for granted, some people just can't do it. Once they can do that, you can see the click, the smile, the eyes light up, they're hooked. That's how we grow this game of golf. And if I can be part of that, I want to be part of this any way I can.
How were you first introduced to PGA Hope? Who was there? Somebody from the Michigan section that reached out to you?
Actually, in one of my previous positions, one of my volunteers who knew I golfed and knew I wanted to get a little bit better had got a flyer from a local PGA professional in our area who was doing, and this is before PGA Hope had started, was doing free golf clinics for veterans. So I thought about it for a little bit and said, I don't think I'm good enough to go get a lesson, but what the heck, it's free. What am I out? And that's when I met Doug Temple, who teaches out of Midland and in the Saginaw area. And he does not have a direct connection as a veteran or anyone in his family. He just sees, like yourself, that it's something he wants to do. And so he graciously gave of his time and then started officially with the PGA Hope program a year or two after I had attended that. And that's when I got involved with PGA Hope. But it was something that, just from a few tips and tricks, it re-engaged me even more than I was at the time. And just for someone who has that signifier PGA professional to just give a little bit of time and attention to just me, a guy who was a hack and sort of still am, that just wants to hit the ball a little bit straighter and just wants to play a little bit better. To me, that was a big deal. And I think that's what our PGA professionals need to know, is that they need to be trained to deliver PGA Hope, but just by giving that time and attention to veterans who may have never played this game before, it means everything to them. And you will get much more back than you will ever give by being able to host a PGA Hope program, because that was the experience I had. And it made sense that as I went forward and went through it and attended and graduated the Hope program, for me to reach my hand out and say, Doug, how can I help do more around this area? So I've been helping alongside, and I'm just out there shagging balls and having conversations with fellow vets. And if anything, sometimes when it gets a little too technical, can kind of be that translator for Doug and the other golf professionals that have helped out, and say, this guy's back is a little bit jacked up from the military. We need to look at this a little different way. Can we help them with their swing a little less technically? And just being able to be that connection. And I don't do it alone. There are a couple of us that do help out because we feel it's the right thing to do. It's not about notoriety or an opportunity to go to DC like I did or any of that. It's our community. It's our fellow vets. We have the ability to help. Why wouldn't we? And having that opportunity has been so rewarding. And that's not why we do it, but it's been an unintended positive outcome that I wouldn't trade for the world. That's why I want to keep doing this.
The 7th PGA National Day of Hope campaign. I don't want to limit this. So just so you all hear the phrase National Day of Hope, it's actually several days of hope. It started back on October 11th. It runs to the end of November. And the goal is to raise over $200,000 for local PGA Hope programming throughout the country. So those of you who are listening, you can go to pgareach.org and make a contribution and kind of give a boost to this really awesome program. And as you hear through the descriptions from Mark, it does make a difference. It does say to somebody who is struggling as they re-enter civilian life and maybe wondering if they still matter. It says to them, you still matter. In fact, you matter so much that we're going to take the time to invest in you to help you learn this game, which has, as a natural side effect of golf, is generally speaking, a calming effect. And certainly something else to focus on, to strive after, something to achieve. Mark mentioned earlier that he is goal-oriented for his game. I don't know that you can really get into golf without becoming goal-oriented in some way. And maybe it's just, I don't want to make any double bogeys today, or I don't want to have any three putts, but everybody has, the capacity to formulate some sort of something to aim for, target off in the distance, where it's, I'm going to get my handicap down. I'm going to break 80. I'm not going to break any clubs, or whatever it is. For you, Mark, as you watch some of your other veterans set their goals and start to make progress towards them. What are you hearing from them, whether it's through PGA Hope or just through the game itself? What are you hearing about the therapeutic nature of all this?
I'm not only hearing it, but I'm seeing it. We're seeing the energy back in individuals. We're seeing them being able to set a goal, achieve it, reach out to it, achieve it at all measure. We're able to see these individuals, just the energy come back into them, the color come back into them, everything about their excitement come back in when life has just been blah for them for years. That's what I'm seeing. And I have a couple of close friends, and we're holding each other accountable. We're setting goals and trying to raise the bar for each other. And it's only made us as a group better. That's the military in a nutshell. So we're able to have a little bit of that around the game of golf. And yeah, there's a fair share of smack talk, but that's what it's about too. It's really about helping your fellow brother or sister up, reaching a hand out and saying, I'm here for you, being there to stand behind them when they fall. Having that group is critical, whether it's around veterans or whether it's out in the civilian sector. We all have the people we trust and help us get better. And this game and my fellow vets that have been involved in it, we're doing it to each other and helping each other every single day, with the exception of the winter, but we'll get there. We'll get there. April can't come soon enough.
Hey, there's indoor golf. There's some simulators around the area. You could still get your swings in.
We've got plenty of plans for the winter, whether we actually make through on that. But that's the hope, is for us all. And last year we talked about it. This year I think we're going to do it, and it's that group, and it just continues to grow each year as we bring somebody else into the fold. And it's a slow bit of progress, but the fact is that we're here for each other, and most of us didn't know each other just a few years ago, and now we're back and we're bonds. We're some of the closest friends that we'd ever had. And I think a lot of it starts with the fact that we all served. And then it comes that we all have a lot in common around the game of golf. And then as we get to know each other, we all realize that we have way more in common than we have that we have different. And why not continue to grow this? So I think we've got a few dates that are going to be on the calendar over the next few months where we'll be traveling the state and playing some simulator golf.
Is it accurate for me to say that for many of our veterans, golf may have saved their lives?
Yes. Simplistically, yes. And Don Ray with the PGA of America said it best. He said, PGA does a lot of great things. PGA of America does a lot of great things. They have a lot of great programs that impact lives, but there's only one program that actually saves lives, and that's PGA Hope.
Well, that's amazing. And I can only imagine when you get together with veterans who are loving the game, but then when it's dinner time, or then when it's, time to sit around and have an adult beverage or whatever, the stories that must come out, both funny and probably funny and sad at the same time, but therapeutic, whichever route those stories are taking, just to be able to talk about those things, just to be able to commiserate or to celebrate or whatever it is that the benefit is of being in a group and having those conversations. Do you find yourself kind of rapidly transporting back in time to remember when we were doing this over there and you said this? I mean, do you see it all in slow motion replaying when you're with your friends?
At times, but for the most part, it's we all have that understanding, and sometimes things come up, but for the most part, it's realistically, the conversations are a lot like you and your friends would have, or anyone else, how around the family, or what the kid did the other day that was so funny, or who fell off the golf cart at a golf course a few days ago, or whatever. I mean, and then every once in a while, one of those things come up. But the fact is just being able to have those conversations for a lot of folks, those conversations ceased after they left the service. So again, it goes back to the simple things we take for granted. So yeah, it's great to have that, and then know that if one of those stories come out, it's not going to be just all of a sudden silence in the room. It's going to be like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. That is a nice little extra additive. And yeah, I would say some of the conversation is a bit colorful, but at the end of the day, that's we're all there for each other, and it's a lot of fun, and that's part of that community that a lot of us had missed for many years, that we've finally gotten back.
Okay, so we are officially going to wind down our time by putting out the word to those of you who are PGA teaching professionals in this audience. Not only would Mark not mind, having some professional instruction, but I'm going to guess he's got some some brothers in service that would benefit from that as well. So if you've got, maybe even during the winter, maybe you've got an indoor facility, you've got a little sim studio, you've got the technology to help, but more than anything, you've got the time and the desire to do so. I want you to reach out to me, and I will connect you with Mark. And let's see if we can get this guy down to scratch by the time, let's say by the time the U.S. Open rolls around in 2024. What's your index right now, Mark?
I'm an 11-4, or I'm sorry, 11-6. I ended the season with.
Okay, so very
Close.
realistic. We've got to knock 3 shots off of that. Maybe we'll go, maybe not quite the U.S. Open. Maybe we'll go down to the Open Championship. So give you some time, because you never know when the season's going to start in Michigan. It might take.
This is true. This is true.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for your service and for sharing your story with us, and for all you do on behalf of giving back to our veterans. Thank you for being part of PGA Hope.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about it. And for those that want to know more, pgahope.org is a great place to go.
And if you want to donate, pgareach.org as well. Help them get to their goal before the end of November. Mark, thanks so much.
Thank you.